Welcome back, everyone. Hope you guys are doing great. I wanted to share a couple things that will hopefully provide some clarity to those of you looking into the truth about creation and what the Word says about the world, and also hopefully lead people in the right direction in terms of how they handle people that don't believe the way that they do once they find that truth. And so the first thing I want to talk about is the world moving, because I hear a lot of people on both sides of this debate going to some of the same verses over and over again. And of course, you can obviously find verses that say that the world isn't moving. There's plenty of them. I have them right here up on the screen. But the ones that say the earth is moving, when you look into those, and you will find there are verses that literally tell us that the earth can move, and it has been moved before, and that's where the confusion may set in, because even 2 Samuel here says that the earth shook. That would be a movement, and that it trembled, and that the foundations of heaven moved, and that they shook. And so when you look at these, you think, well, there's a contradiction in the word. It says the world's immovable, and now here it is saying that the earth is shaking. And then, you go on throughout Psalms and even into Isaiah, you see verses like this one here in Psalm 18, that the earth shook and trembled. So there's that shaking again, talking about the foundations of the hills moving. And then you have in verse 68, the earth shook again. There's that same language, it shook. And the heavens also dropped at the presence of God. So you have the heavens now, the firmament dropping, and the earth shaking. And then again in Psalm 99:1, it says, let the earth be moved. Not actually that it is moving, but let it be moved. And then in Isaiah 2, it says, to go into the clefts of the rocks and into the tops of the ragged rocks for fear of the Lord and the glory of his majesty when he ariseth to shake terribly the earth. So, not to sound like Elvis, so there's a whole lot of shaking going on right here. So you have that earth shaking quite a bit, and it's confusing because people go, well, it says the world's not moving, but it's obviously moving in those verses. And that's what I wanted to clarify. And I've said this before in a video, that the earth is not the world. Two different things here. And we have to go back to Genesis. But before we do, the reason that confusion sets in is because we grew up with the images that the Father had the whole world in his hands, and the whole world was the dry land and the seas surrounded by this magical pressurized atmosphere. And so we had this imagery all the time. And so when we see the word earth, we think of that. And in our modern, current, false misrepresentation of what the Bible says that we've all believed in, they have the world being the earth. And that firmament just being that air pressure around the ball of the earth. And so the earth and the world are pretty much interchangeable. Earth has become a planet. But when you go back and look at not just what all of the people throughout time believed, and you go back to Genesis, you see that the earth was just dry land. And so when the Most High gives something a name, that's what it is. He didn't call the dry land, the pressurized atmosphere, and the waters earth or the world. He called dry land earth. So you can hear of dry land moving all the time. However, the world as a whole is immovable. It's not moving. The earth can quake, it can shake, it can split open, it can swallow things up. That dry land can do a lot of things. And that's why the flood, it says, covered the whole earth. It covered all of the dry land. And that understanding makes verses like this one here in Isaiah that I've heard a lot of people mention as being a proof of a globe earth. And I used to think the exact same thing when I would read this. And it says here that he's sitting upon the circle of the earth, which if you replace that word earth with dry land, he's literally sitting upon or above the circle of dry land. And that's why that firmament's able to spread out like a curtain or a tent, it calls it. And so we sort of skip that part where it talks about the firmament being like a tent, but this entire passage makes a lot more sense when you put that into perspective, because people hear words like the corners of the earth and they say, oh, okay, so it's a circle and it's a square? How is that possible? That's not what the Bible's saying. And when you look at it in the context, there's a circle of dry land that he sits above. Dry land can have corners. The world itself is not just that dry land, okay? There's the firmament, there's all those layers, there's what's above it, there's the waters above the firmament, the entire earth, the foundations, the pillars, the bottomless pit, Sheol, all of that encompasses the world. And so the world itself is not moving. It's the things above us in the firmament that are moving. That's why Joshua told the sun to stand still, and it did. So understanding the difference between the world and the earth is huge. And like many have pointed out, our ancient ancestors that we were told were extremely dumb and thought you would fall off the edge of the earth, they all believed in the firmament. We were never taught about it. We were shown the archaic, as Wikipedia calls it, disproven model of Earth with this flat disc like you see here. But back then, way before the globe was invented, none of them ever believed in this. There was always a firmament involved. That's why Christopher Columbus quoted to Esdras to get more funding. It speaks of a firmament founded on the waters. Imagine that, going to somebody and saying, hey, I'm going to try to explore. Can you fund it? I'm not going to fall off of an edge because there's a firmament. It's in this book right here that also talks about more land than there is water. Kind of cool. But that's one thing I wanted to share. We talked about that in our word study today, and I was thinking about it and going, you know what? People need to understand there's a difference. We're going to have a new heaven and a new earth, okay? A new heaven and a new dry land, a new firmament and a new dry land, but the world is immovable. So quite the undertaking when people start throwing all these verses at you, but that should help give some clarity. And with that clarity, the next thing I want to look at is something that's going on or about to go down here in about a month, I guess less than a month now. December 2nd, there's going to be an alleged showdown between the Biblical Earth Community and Pastor Greg Locke. And I've seen so many people sending hate towards Pastor Greg. And I want to say to everyone that's doing that, just think about the fruits of the Spirit. Think about what's going to win people over. This man has done something very brave in welcoming us to a discussion so that we can present. And he said he would give the mic and let them speak. You have to think about the fruits of the Spirit being on display. People are going to see that. It's going to do more good than harm with someone allowing this. And he is where he is for a reason. He was a truth seeker during the pandemic that brought a lot of people with him that were seeking truth. He was standing up against a lot of the bad things. I know he's not perfect. No one is. But he has been very brave. And I could imagine if you believed in the globe and you had all these people saying, have you looked into this? Have you looked into that? And then, of course, you got the mean comments saying you're a Bible denier and all these little attacks. And it hurts someone like him who has such a great following. He has indeed been blessed with a great following. Not saying he says everything right and he's perfect. Neither one of us are. But we need to send people like him a lot of love. You know, I think that there's a reason that people send him hate, and one of those reasons might have been to get him to do this. You know, like he finally got angry enough with all of the attacks and was like, fine, I'm going to settle this once and for all. But we need to send him and the people that follow him love. Let them see what we have seen and how much it's changed us. It's not just some distraction. It's not our religion. Like I've said before, it's not the most important truth, but it's the Father's truth. It's at the beginning of the Bible, and that's not a division. If it's a division, then Genesis is a division, and we don't need to read it because it literally mentions that firmament. It mentions all of the things that we believe in to a T. And so we have to understand that a lot of people aren't there. They may never get there. That's okay. I had miracles happen when I believed in the globe. I had so many cool things happen when I believed in so many worldly things before I knew the things I know now. The Father is patient. The things that he's been through are so sad and heartbreaking when you just read about it and hear about it. I mean, people not only no longer making sacrifices to him, they're sacrificing their own children to demons, giving up the most precious thing in the world to a false god. And he's had to witness that for generations of people that he's already set free, and we just become so foolish. And so there's a lot of different things that make these times significant, and one of those is this moving of the Spirit that's bringing so many of us to truth, giving us clarity, freeing us from the false science. It's done a lot of things. I know many of you have been in this movement for a while. You've seen thousands of testimonies of people who would have never picked up a Bible had it not been for the provable truth of creation. And so I'm thankful to be a part of this. If Pastor Greg, gives us a chance to speak, I would love to. I know that Pastor Dean Odell is going to be speaking. Don't know who else is. It may just be him and Greg. I don't know. And I want you guys to all be praying that the Spirit moves on this, that it's not about egos, and that the truth will be seen by many, even if, somebody like Pastor Greg doesn't really come to that conclusion. That's okay. Maybe it's not the time for him. Maybe there's some other people he needs to reach that wouldn't even look into that, and then he will. Who knows? I don't know what the Father's plans are with this guy, but obviously when he's reaching out to do this, this is a big thing. I've never seen another preacher do this, so my hat's off to him for doing that. And for those of you who have been sending love their way, please do that. They do not want someone with this big of a platform opening the mic to us. Trust me, they don't. There's probably going to be a lot of things going against this, but no matter what happens, we all just need to be united and believing that some good will come of this. And so that's all I wanted to share with you guys. There's a lot going on. We've started coaching. We were told that that's what we'd be doing. It's been rough trying to do this without my heart being in it like it used to, now that I just want to do ministry full time. And so for those of you who have been following us with the Creation Standard stuff, I'm sorry for the lack of information and presentations that I used to provide. I was hoping to keep those going, but it looks like I'm going to have to wait probably until Thanksgiving break to roll some things out when we finally have a little bit of time to step away from work and coaching and do those. I'd like to have a live lesson for those of you homeschool parents to look at evolution, because that's the unit I just finished up. And so I want to present that to the children, do it live, probably on Zoom or StreamYard, maybe both, and have some sort of fun game at the end for anyone that wants their children to be a part of that little evolution unit. I figured it'd be good for all three of our sample classes, because we have the earth science class, which evolution or the age of the earth gets brought up, and then you have life science, evolution's a part of that standard, and biology, our biological design class, the evolution is a part of that standard. So you see that repeated theme throughout elementary, middle, and high school. So I want to cover that with all age groups, and so I can do this presentation and just provide a sample of what next year is going to be like when we hopefully can do this full time. If you have never heard about that, the Creation Standard project that we're doing is the homeschool aspect of our ministry, where we're going to be focusing on the youth and teaching them based on new standards that are based on creation. So we're calling them the Creation Standards. If you want information on that, send us an email to thecreationstandard@gmail.com. It'll be in the description. We can add you to the list. It's getting quite large, but we'll try to keep that growing and branch out and, reach out to other people in the truth community that are sharing things and make it like one big team where we bring our children up the right way. And so it's going to be fun. Hopefully it will be a blessing to many in the future. Again, like I said, this year it's a little rough putting stuff out there, but hopefully next year I can step away from my day job and focus on that in ministry full time. And that'd be a blessing for me, and hopefully for those out there who are serious about bringing their children up the right way. So anyways, we love you guys. The Father loves you, and I will see you all around real soon.